Realism as an organising
the problem
factor,
with accepting
right?
biological realism is a great deal of, and I'm not a bigot or anything, a great deal of white people have this kind of superiority complex. No offence. In my own racial views, the only smart thing that white people ever came up with was the Industrial Revolution.
Content over everything.
Before that, let's say like the 1400s, the discovering of America, there was no such thing as the West. I'm sorry, in my opinion, the West was created in the 1960s when we
What's the Acropolis?
What?
Does the Acropolis not count?
What's the Acropolis?
You don't know about the Acropolis in Greece?
Okay, so we started Western
I was like
civilization 2,000
What about
years
Socrates?
ago.
What about Plato? What about Aristotle?
Greece was not Western, right? They had slaves. Spartans, right, for example, would throw babies off of mountains because they had deformities. That is not Western values. That's Nazism. You know, Athenians, for example.
Son of a Nazi.
No. But that's like
the Godwin's law.
The Athenians, for example, would have sex. Would have sex with young boys. It wasn't about love. It wasn't about gay marriage. Or when we adopt a couple of kids and have a
just like man up.
You're saying it's about
you can take it like a man.
A lot of people think the Athenians were this like
fucking
advanced,
women's
smart race of
pussies,
people.
real men, you rape men.
They were from the Persians.
So let's fast forward
go
a bit.
play with your girly tissue bags.
Enlightenment period.
Oh yeah, the Enlightenment period was the beginning of it. The Renaissance and the Enlightenment period was definitely the beginning.
Yeah, so you think that doesn't apply to the West then, because you said the only thing the West has ever come up with.
I mean, the only good thing the West has ever come up with, the Industrial Revolution. The thing is, with the
Renaissance,
with things like the Renaissance, I mean, the 12th century, they were very.
Let me make sure that you and I align our historical timeline. So if I drew the Age of Reason, which demarcates.
What year was this? Sorry.
So demarcates the Age of Faith. It started in the late 15th century, and it starts with Galileo and Kepler and Descartes. From reason, I get individualism, which gives me liberty in economics, and from that I get the age of science, which gives me medicine. So you're picking one of the 8 bottoms. The entire thing, the entire package, is what the West gave to the entire planet. So when you say the Enlightenment is just science and engineering, no, that's one of the products of individualism, liberty, capitalism, all the way to the Age of Reason, which you can trace to the Reformation.
I think if we look at Baghdad in the 12th century, they were very.
What do we have from Baghdad in the 12th century today?
It's not doing so great. I mean, look what do we have from look what we have at Athens today. It's broke and it's full of Albanians now.
Hold on. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No great love for the Albanians.
Aristotle and Plato sort of preceded the
so if you draw the philosophy timeline, we have 2,000 years ago and 2,500 before. You have Plato, Aristotle, the Socratic method, and you have Jesus Christ. Not much happens in philosophy. We have doubt and skepticism until we get the Age of Reason. Not much happened in terms of empires. It was just people taking land. Then somehow this magical thing happened in this North Sea area that can currently export to the world the Age of Reason of the faith, giving you individualism, giving you liberty and capital, and giving you science and technology, giving you medicine, all coming together in health, prosperity, and happiness. That was purely not even a universal European thing. It was a Northwest European thing, starting in England, moving to Scotland, moving to France, moving across the world. So what we are standing on is the birthplace of the greatest gift to civilization, by any metric.
But do you think?
And this is not an accident. This has to be genetic.
But have you read the book Steel?
Guns and Civilization? Yeah, great book, right? But that's arguing for environmental reasons that built on top of that, right? Just saying that you have the coastline, the ragged coastline, the lack of the utilitarian argument, the lack of resource planning.
The fact that we're in such close proximity and we're like fighting each other so many times, that obviously made technology rapidly more advanced.
But on top of fundamentally both a genetic, it's never always genes and it's never no genes, it's both.
Yeah.
And if you look at that Age of Reason now, you said the 1960s, that's a birth that's a birth of neoliberalism.
Yeah.
So that's a birth of progressive equal rights, equal things.
In my opinion, that was when the West was born.
Well, no, the West was born in the 15th century or the 2,000 years ago, depending what you want to call it.
I think of the philosophers because we know what Eastern, we know the Eastern philosophers.
But tolerance is a liberal idea. Liberalism only came around the 15th century.
But we know the Eastern philosophers like Confucius and
Tao and tons of them.
Sun Tzu, the Art of War.
Lao Tzu.
Yeah, we know that as being Eastern philosophy. Western philosophy is like Plato and.
This is primarily what I'm talking about with the West when I say 2,000 years ago is the birth of philosophy.
Yeah, and the trend cross, but there's a clear crossover, right? So if you look
medicine, but they had it wrong.
But there's a very good crossover, and that's through Heidegger. So Heidegger was very influenced by Indian and Chinese thought. and Heidegger was the Nazi's favorite philosopher, right? And Heidegger looked and took Eastern concepts of being and becoming, of being in a consciousness stream, and he brought that to threaten, from a religious perspective, a materialistic view of philosophy. Yeah. So the East has made influence, and even before that, you could argue that the Reformation didn't happen until you had doubt, until you had religious metaphysical doubt, and we think that that doubt came from the West and East. So it's not that the East and the other side has not contributed, but that pales in comparison to Western civilization.
But where do like the Assyrians or Babylonians play in this?
Yeah, the West is the best empire we've ever had, and it's under attack. And
which empire?
Any empire in the history of humanity, and every non-white person should stand with whites in the defense of the West, or I will see them on the field. Right, because the West cannot fall, and that's not racism.
Yeah, no, I agree. The West.
Japan is in the first world, right? Japan is a high ethno state with high coherence, a high society. Japan is in the first world. It's not just race.
And South Korea.
South Korea.
Russia, that's
Russia.
Ethnically homogenous. It's not.
It's
the
not
nicest
really
place to live.
from one end to the other.
Russia
Oh
is
yeah, I
made
mean,
up so many
let's say from.
ethnicities.
You just want to focus on the Moscow area or something.
Yeah, mainly from Moscow to the mountains of
Urals.
Russia is a bit of an outlier because it's such a huge landmass that has to almost be primitive in controlling everyone because obviously.
But I don't think it's quite multicultural. I think they, if you look at Crimea, they're not so tolerant of other peoples.
The Muslim population they have.
They're more a geopolitical players than they are anything else, man.
Yeah.
And of course, their bloody philosophy was Karl Marx and Nietzsche.
I'm not saying that white people ain't done any cool shit. They done some cool shit. It's just like when
you don't like us bragging about it.
No. I'm cool with people bragging about it. I just think a lot of people are mistaken. When Rome set out and conquered, they didn't conquer. Well, they eventually got to Gaul in Britain, but they wanted to go to Greece. And they wanted to go to Carthage, but they really wanted Parthia. They really wanted Persia. That was the main goal. I think after Octavian, one of the emperors after Octavian was like, okay, what can I conquer? I can't conquer Persia because they're too damn tough. I can't conquer the Germans because they know how we fight and they're going to whoop our asses. Let's conquer England because it's easy.
That might have been Hadrian. That might have been Hadrian. Because he was the last one that tried to extend the borders of Rome as far as possible.
No. Caesar was the first one to invade twice, and then it was Claudius who invaded Britain.
I think was it Nero that tried to invade the sea?
No,
he was just on the shores of Britain and he realised he had no troops.
That was Caligula.
That was Caligula.
But that was actually because the troops were mutinous. They didn't want to go to Britain. They thought it was like it was like proposing a moon landing. So they thought, I can humiliate you Romans by picking up seashells in your helmets, And this
so
is
he
the
basically got to the shoreline of Britain.
Wait, that was real?
Yeah,
he had no troops with him, so he was just panicked.
No, he had troops with them. He just wanted.
You are smoking.
He just wanted to humiliate them.
I didn't know you were a smoker.
Yeah.
Fair shout. But he got there and he had no troops, so he was just like, fuck it, we'll invade the sea today.
Yeah.
I think the point is I think this notion that we constantly try to be like. I appreciate white people, but I think this thing to sort of say that they're the greatest thing that ever happened, I think would make people very uneducated. Because I believe that, the West has always been great, but it just hasn't. I think if you look at Carthage, it's a very prominent nation. I think mainly in the Middle East, especially, the Baghdad House of Wisdom until the Mongolians came and fucked it up. And I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying maybe the Middle East would have been a better place if the Mongolians and the Kingdom of Saad didn't happen.
I'm old enough to remember.
You obviously need to.
I believe that they were fully capable of creating a Western civilization in their own nations. If they ever had the Industrial Revolution and completely.
Sorry, which peoples are you talking about when you say they could have had the same as the West, same development as the West?
I do agree with him because I always.
I think there's too much tribalism in the Middle East historically.
Yeah, but I always like arguing these alt-writers who saying like, only we were capable of building St. Paul's and St. Peter's Cathedral. I'm thinking like, dude, have you seen the Egyptians and the pyramids? Have you seen the Mediterranean? Have you seen the Babylonians with the hanging gardens? Have you seen the Chinese and they always make these excuses, like saying like, no, the Egyptians are actually white, or not these things and like.
Yeah, but what Ralph is saying is they had the world wonders for sure, but they never exported the ideas of that very far. Like obviously went to Greece and they built the Acropolis and stuff like that.
I learned from ContraPoints. The only reason that England even knew about the ancient Greeks is because they translated these stories from Arabic. This is something I heard from them.
From Arabic?
Yeah, because the Arabs knew about the ancient Greeks.
Are you sure he's not Hebrew?
Oh, no, you got Maimonides and Ibn Sina and Thomas Aquinas during, I forget which century.
When someone from Baghdad came to the Frankish Empire, the first Holy Roman Empire, they gave him a clock and they thought it was black magic. And I'm like, what is this? This is some advanced kind of technology. My point is, I think everyone's capable of building stuff. I think it's just a great deal of regression. Like, let's take, and I think my favourite one is, why wasn't Brazil ever a superpower? That was because their nation was so racist. They were far too dependent on slavery, and they never had a merchant class that created the Industrial Revolution. This is why Brazil could have definitely competed with the United States if they got their shit together.
The Industrial Revolution, at least in Britain, I believe, was like financed by corporations and supported by them. Like you had, I forget the name of them. There's a specific name for corporations that did this. They would build houses around factories for workers to live in and stuff like that. So it wasn't just like the industry developing on its own, it was corporations alongside it. So you have to have corporations for that sort of thing to happen, as well as the engineering and the technology.
A lot of people talk about defending the West. I'm kind of like a Trotskyist when it comes to Westernism. I think everyone needs to be like the West. I think we need a global Western
A global village, okay.
And that's why I've got this kind of radical Pan-African Western, but no, it hasn't been quite.
But do you honestly think every people on the planet are predisposed to accepting Western ideas?
Well, they're predisposed and wanted to come to Western countries, so yeah.
It's true.
I mean, you only need to look at the development of Africa, yeah. And the economic boom that's going on in Africa, mainly in Ghana and Nigeria, to show, they're accepting the West. NAFTA with Mexico, because a great deal of factories and jobs are shipped over there. That's what limited immigration. Most immigration's coming over from El Salvador because they're building a wall. And they're stopping NAFTA. That's what they really want to stop the Mexicans, because they're going to go.
No, what they want to stop is the Mexican cartels and the gang members, and they also see that in like other South American countries who want to migrate. And I think it's probably going to be migration out of Venezuela and possibly a few other South American countries in the future.
And I think all the whites at some point are going to be kicked out of South Africa.
Yeah, China's got interest in asset stripping, man. China's a bigger threat than most people make out.
Oh yeah.
I think people really underestimate China. I don't like China.
Yeah.
Like I was saying to Jamie earlier, like, you know, people who come down here and criticise British culture, like the Raspberry guys and that.
Oh, he's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's a complete.
But like, he doesn't
an embarrassment.
He doesn't realise that like British culture gives him the right to criticise British culture. Like if you go to China,
he'd get killed.
Yeah, you can. If you try talking about Hong Kong or fucking Taiwan or Tibet, he get either deported or put in jail. If you did it in Russia about Crimea or Ukraine, the best you can hope for is he wakes up in a ditch in the middle of the woods somewhere.
I don't want it. I don't want it to happen.
No, I'm not saying. I'm just saying it as an example, hypothetically. I wish no ill.
But he's everything.
Yeah, I think we'll leave that there. Yeah. I think we're done for now, are we?
Yeah.
Yeah, sweet. I'm gonna go see what these yellow vests are about. So I want to find out. So standing up there.
Content over everything from your humanity. Man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
That is the history of this land. And that's, the United Kingdom, that's its culture. I promote that. And I think it's a fantastic culture. And what I absolutely despise is this idea that you can bring over other cultures that are, in many cases, a hell of a lot worse than the Western civilization, the Western culture that we created in the UK.